Hello, and welcome to my presentation on Business in Belgium, a guide to the leadership and forces that shape Belgian business. In this presentation, we'll be discussing some of the history and major events that have shaped Belgium, the economy, some of the main industries that Belgium relies upon, education, some unique regional differences, politics and government, and of course, our approach to leadership. Just a few quick facts about Belgium. They have a population of roughly 11.4 million people. The capital is Brussels. They share borders with Netherlands to the north, France to the west, Germany to the east, and Luxembourg to the southeast. Their government is a federal governmental constitutional monarchy headed by the Prime Minister, as well as a king. The population is 60% Roman Catholic, as well as small percentages of Jewish, Muslim, and a few other faiths. The Battle of Waterloo took place in 1815 and was Napoleon's final defeat, which marked the end of 23 years of recurrent warfare between France and the other powers of Europe. This pitted Napoleon's 72,000 troops and the combined force of the Duke of Wellington's 68,000 British, Dutch, Belgian, and German units, with around 45,000 Prussians. After abandoning his army, Napoleon went to the west coast of France. He had a plan to escape to the United States, but was stopped by a British naval squadron. He surrendered himself to the commander of the HMS Bellerophon. He died in exile on the island of St. Helena. This defeat of Napoleon marked the beginning of what was known as the United Kingdom of the Netherlands, which lasted until 1830, when a Belgian Revolution led to the modern nations of Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg being established. 1914 marked the beginning of World War I. Germany had goals of besieging the French capital of Paris using the Schlieffen Plan. This plan involved crossing into Luxembourg and Belgium, despite their neutrality. The two countries refused free passage to the German troops, despite being outnumbered more than 10 to 1, and were invaded. The Belgian army held out for more than a month and allowed time for British and French forces to plan a counteroffensive. Germany invaded again in the spring of 1940. After the defeat, the Belgian government fled the country, first to France and later to London. Germany occupied Belgium for the next 4 years, until they were defeated by Allied forces. At the conclusion of the war, the governments in exile of Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Belgium established the Benelux Customs Union. This union was replaced by the Benelux Economic Union in 1958. This union promoted the free movement of workers, capital, services, and goods in the region. In 1948, the United States enacted the Marshall Plan, formerly known as the European Recovery Program. This US-sponsored program was designed to rehabilitate the economies of 17 Western and Southern European countries in order to create stable conditions in which democratic institutions could survive. Over the next 4 years, this program distributed over $13 billion worth of economic aid, helping to restore industrial and agricultural production, establish financial stability, and expand trade. Belgium's federal system is made up of 3 territorial regions. The territorial regions include Flanders in the north, Wallonia in the south, and the Brussels Capital Region. Each region has its own government and its own parliament. The French-speaking region, collectively called Walloons, makes up about 1/3 of the total Belgian population. The Flemings, to the north, are a Dutch-speaking people. They make up about 1/2 of the total Belgian population. And the Brussels Capital Region, all officially bilingual, has a majority French-speaking people and makes up about 1/10 of the total population. The Belgian political system can be very difficult for people to understand. It has a constitutional monarchy, the king or queen, who is the head of state, a prime minister, who is the head of government in a multi-party system. The federal authorities are the king, the prime minister, the ministers, state secretaries, and the federal parliament, which includes the Senate and the Chamber of Representatives. Currently, Belgium has no federal elected government. In 2010, they set a record by going 589 days without an elected government. In 2018, that record was broken by Northern Ireland. Belgium has a free enterprise economy, with the majority of their gross domestic product generated by the service sector. Historically, Belgium's national prosperity was dependent on the country's role as a fabricator and processor of imported raw materials and on the subsequent export of finished goods. Foreign investment led to considerable growth in the engineering sector of Belgium's economy in the late 20th century. The country has assembly plants for foreign automakers, as well as for foreign firms manufacturing heavy electrical goods. Moreover, Belgium has a number of important manufacturers of machine tools and specialized plastics. Belgium became a charter member of the European Monetary Union in January of 1999, paving the way for the introduction of the euro, which became the country's sole currency in 2002, replacing the Belgian franc. So here's where we will discuss some of my recommendations for leadership. And I would start by addressing the unique situation with the regional differences in Belgium, with Walloon and Flanders. It's almost, I would describe it as countries within a country with their differences. And it's important to understand these divisions. A lot of times you can feel the tensions just below the surface, and understanding this, you need to have the knowledge that compromise is vital in business decisions if you're going to make progress. Decision making it tends to be slow. As I said, they go through this process of compromise and debate before most decisions are accepted. As far as management, again, a very measured approach. They rely on a lot of consultation, discussion, and even with this, more so in the Flemish part of the country than in Wallonia. So with humility, this has to do with being conservative and being ready for compromise. If you're pushing rapid change, it can be looked at as suspicious, and they will not be quick to accept that. Addressing the regional differences again, Belgians work well in multicultural teams. Probably better than they do in teams that include both Flemish and Wallonian people. And of course, with most of these group settings, it's important to develop a positive atmosphere, harmony, and to be free from conflict. So on those same lines, understanding that this population speaks both French and Dutch, it's actually better to speak English, as it maintains your neutrality. So it's an interesting, I'm not sure how to say it. So if I were to kind of summarize the approach that I would recommend to somebody put in a leadership position in Belgium, I would tell them to expect change to not happen quickly, to make sure they're open to compromise. You need to understand the regionalism the country is divided by, and it could be frustrating. You need an approach that factors in this time it takes to make decisions, and it can be a painful process. As far as management, again, it's important that issues are discussed and decisions are arrived at through a slower process, working towards compromise and accommodation. I would also recommend that a leader goes in with very clear views on their direction and their goals. You need to be knowledgeable and inclusive. So yeah, take some extra time to develop your strategies, to gain a better understanding of how this kind of regional divide functions, and don't go in with the expectation of changing things overnight. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you learned a lot and have a better understanding of how business and leadership should be approached in Belgium. Thanks.